Hi, Damon.
Afternoon.
How are you all doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
Great. Do you all have a nice Thanksgiving?
Yes, quiet, but the nicest part is that it just keeps feeling like the weekend keeps going on, and then suddenly it's over. Kind of a-
That is very true. One thing I do like about being home for Thanksgiving is the fact that, normally maybe you're doing something, but you find that you have spare time to do other things that it's more of a break, I think.
Yeah. When I first came to UVA and discovered they allowed the Wednesday off, that was a miracle.
That's definitely appreciated. Well, it used to be a half day when I first, got to UVA. So many people would take the day off. It would, a handful of us there. But, we're fortunate enough this year, they gave us the extra 3 days off before Christmas, which is nice. It was, I think, just Christmas Eve, but now it's 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, I believe.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey, Amanda.
Hello, good afternoon. How is everyone?
Good.
Well,
Good.
Great.
thank you. You?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Hope you all enjoyed the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, we did. We were just out talking about how it was nice to have a little extra free time, and I love actually we often travel at Thanksgiving, but it's kind of nice not doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found one of the silver linings with COVID is having less programmed weekends sometimes. Just some of the events and things that normally would be happening on the weekends aren't. So I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree. I mean, you've got children at home,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I have two boys. They're 13 and almost 15, and having this past year of being mostly homebound, especially in the early part of the year, it's been nice. And work was so busy, and now we've shifted to do different things, but I have to admit it's not as busy as it was, so it's been kind of nice.
Indeed. And hello, Dave. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey.
Good to see you all.
Thank you. And do we have Kate? I saw Brian, your message. Is she here or online?
Don't think she's here yet.
As opposed to the audience. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Well, it has 6 people as panelists, and then 1 is an attendee. So I wonder if she's the attendee, because I see Max and Brian and the.
Oh yeah, it looks like she has her hand up.
Oh, okay.
Is it possible to include her?
Brian may be working on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I got cut off on the computer I was on, so I had to switch. So I'm going to bring Kate into the meeting. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, that'd be great if you're able to do that.
Welcome, Kate.
There
Oh,
you go.
great.
Hi, Kate. Welcome to our meeting.
Coming from the other, he was probably going to be lonely in the audience there.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, I emailed you guys. I don't know if you got it, but I couldn't do anything. But thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Great. Well, I think we have everyone we were expecting for this session, and want to thank you all for your time. And I know it's a very busy time of year for everyone. And I think we've covered a lot of this, I think even virtually or in advance of today's meeting, but want to use this time to really confirm next steps, the process and timeline for the 2021 grant cycle for the Sister Cities program. At our last commission meeting, we agreed that we wanted to proceed with that on a modified timeline, and also in recognition of kind of the unique period we're living in and some of the limitations to kind of how we have typically done exchanges involving travel, but also encouraging some new and innovative ideas for cultural exchange outside of travel. But we're also hopeful that travel may resume in 2021, and want to create space for that to be supported through this program, if that is possible. So in advance of today's meeting, I shared a proposed agenda, which hopefully you've all seen. I'm happy to project that if that's useful. We actually might want to look at that together in a moment anyway, but as we go through the timeline. But I thought we could start with looking at the application form and finalizing that. I think there are a few pending questions that we might want to talk through together. Then we can review the process and timeline. And then I think there are just a couple of other business items, one around the timeline for completing the 2020 grant projects. Dave, thanks for your suggestion of coming back to that point. And also just maybe a quick update on one of the projects that's completed, and we received a final report actually a couple months ago. I discovered when I went back into the Gmail account for Sister Cities, I found something from June that was relevant to this group. So does that sound like a good plan for our session today?
Totally.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's start with the application form. I could project that. Would that be helpful to everyone?
Amanda,
Okay.
will you be projecting it from the Google Docs?
I can, or I can use a different version. Do you have a preference, Adrian?
No, well, eventually I was wondering if the committee members can have edit access, because I would have made,
You
I
do
had a
have
couple
edit
of,
access. Your UVA account has edit access at the moment, Adrian. So are you setting in with your UVA account? Because that's the email we have listed.
no, I think I must be accessing Google Docs from a different route.
Yeah.
So for now I can, I don't want to take up time to try to figure out how I work that out, but so to whatever you do, Amanda, and I have my own Word document where I made my own tweaks, so I can just say them out loud. We can.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I saw your note, Adrian, and tried to, it looked like you, I had an email address that you were maybe trying to edit from. And so I just hit share. I don't know if that worked on my side just through my email, but I got a notification you were trying to get access to the document. So I tried to grant that. I don't know if that was successful. Okay, well, let me pull it up and we can take a look together. If I can find it. One moment. Well, sorry, I'm not seeing it from the Google when I look at my options, shares. Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. Can you all see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. So I think the first question we wanted to talk, just confirm really, is that we want to continue to keep the maximum grant amount of $4,000, which is consistent with the past application process. And this was discussed a little among us around whether we would lower that amount or that threshold in light of the fact that some of the projects may not involve travel and should it, require less funding. But I think with the expectation that there could be some travel in 2021, the hope that we might want to go ahead and retain that $4,000 cap to allow for that if it becomes possible. This is all still within a $16,000 total that the commission agreed to for 2021 grant making. So just want to first confirm that we want to keep the 4,000 in there. Are there any objections to that?
I think we should keep it at that. I mean,
Okay.
we don't have to approve a proposal, that has $4,000 in it. We
Right.
could come back and ask for less. So I don't think it hurts to keep it.
Okay, that's
And,
right.
You never know if someone made a truly remarkable proposal that was going to cost beyond that, and they were going to seek other funding as they're encouraged to do. There might be a proposal that is really worthy of that full 4,000. So, I mean, it's nice to have that as a ceiling.
Okay. Thanks. And certainly the idea of cost share is encouraged, and I think that's mentioned elsewhere in the application that is encouraged to seek additional complementary funding where possible to expand the project. Okay, that sounds good. Let's go ahead and then keep it at $4,000 like past years. Okay, and then the next question, let me just scroll down here.
I had something before then.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
to
go ahead,
in
please.
order?
Sure.
I had wanted to clarify a bit the paragraph starting eligibility, because for me it wasn't clear. The second sentence in that paragraph reads, previous award recipients can submit a new application 1 year after completion of the previous grant project, however, etc. Does that mean they have to let a year go in between completing one project and applying for a new one? They basically have to have a year interim of nothing.
Let's see.
I actually, this is where I'm wondering if it's easy, Amanda or whoever, to give you the email address that I think is causing my Google Docs problems. And if I could edit it, because I have a little copy here that I made myself that might clarify it a little bit more. But I first need to be sure that I am understanding the actual guideline. Or it sounds as if you get an award, you complete it, then you have to lay fallow for a year before you could apply again, except if you have an idea that builds immediately on the award you just got.
Right. I think the distinction may be that if you want to propose a new project idea, you do need to wait a year after completion of the past project. But if the project but there is an opportunity to submit a related kind of supplement or an expansion of the current project immediately if there's an opportunity to follow on to that. That's how I interpret this. I haven't seen this instance come up in my short tenure with the commission. Dave, I don't know if you've encountered this in past grants, this ever, arisen as a specific idea, but that's my interpretation of the language, which I agree is a little confusing.
It really hasn't come up much. I think your interpretation is correct.
Is it possible, if I gave you an email, Amanda, that I could have edit access immediately as we're here?
I can do it right now, Adrian. What's your email address?
This is all one word, lowercase, VABENISSIMO 14
Mhm.
@gmail.com.
Got it. All right. I'm sending you access right now. You should be able
Thank you.
to do that.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
I'm still not completely in the Google Docs world, so I'm not as efficient with it as you are.
No,
Thank you so much.
I live and breathe it as a teacher.
Yes, I know the schools rely on this heavily. My kids train me how to use it.
What about the firefighters? I remember, like, is that through our grants process? Because I feel like theirs was year after year too.
That's
right?
true. That was a back-to-back proposal.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. That's a good example, Kate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was really successful. I think the
Mhm.
second year, they asked for the same amount of funding, but if I recall correctly, we didn't completely fulfill the $4,000 that they requested.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. But it was a back-to-back, like very successful, really, really cool program. So that's an example of one that builds off of it.
So I'm just dropping in something for the group to weigh in on it. And I just did it in the suggesting mode, not the editing mode. So I removed that highlighted area that you highlighted, Amanda, and I put this other wording that, oh, I'm sorry. Did I do that wrong? Yes, I did. Please bear with me. Undo. I wanted to say previous award recipients. I wanted to put it after the word grant project. Okay, I'm undoing this. So here it would go. There we go.
Wondering, this is such a rare case. Like, is it something that we need to even include in this? Like, if a group wishes to build on something, I feel like, I don't know.
Well, this wording makes it more clear where the exception is and what the general rule is.
In 1 year.
The last in this case is referring to which case, Adrienne? In this case, one may apply for a grant.
It says there, however, an exception can be made in the case of a proposal that builds immediately on the successful past project, expanded to include other local blah, blah, blah. In this case, so this case is the exception. One may apply for a grant the year immediately subsequent to the first award year.
Okay.
Or the year immediately following, maybe, following.
I tend to think along the same lines as where I think Kate was going, which is, it's such a rare occurrence. Do we need to even have any language? I mean, the commission and the subcommittee can always say, you guys have come to us too many times in a row. We're not going to fund you this year. I mean, we already have that leeway.
I think that's what we did with the firefighters too, was that you came to, like, it was sort of like this is a recurring thing. Like, this is awesome. Like, I feel like this is a lot of words and a little,
right.
I think.
I do think if we're going to pretty much agree that we're not going to give someone a back-to-back, like 2 different projects year after year, that we should let them know that so they don't go to the trouble of creating a proposal and writing it just for us to automatically not accept it, I mean, I wouldn't want to write a whole new project and have it declined automatically. I think we should include it in the eligibility that if that is our policy, we need to state that.
I wonder.
If that's not our policy, then let's let it go. If we're
What
open to.
What if it's a great project?
I mean, it might be. I don't really. I'm not necessarily opposed to doing year after year projects that are different.
Kind of reminds me of, I filled out, I mean, for another thing I do. I filled out a Prana Fund application, and I'm just checking the wording in theirs, because theirs was something where it's like, you know, it can be 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year project. Like, I wonder if in the application they could express intent of like, this could follow up with multiple projects. And that's something that maybe we get back to them. It's like, well, we'll fund you for this year, but we don't see, like, or something like that, where, I don't know, they have the option of like expressing interest in a multiple year program. I don't know. I feel like most of these are kind of a one and done type thing, where it's like you go do the thing and then come back. I don't think most people are looking for like a multi-year like thing. So I feel like, I don't know. Go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, no, thanks. I think it's a great point, Kate. And I remember now the discussion around the fire department and Winneba partnership, you know, it started as a project, but I think has expanded into a longer term partnership. And we had that discussion last year. And I think that was why we elected to provide additional year of support at a reduced level. But the idea that this is building towards something long-term. And I think we wanted to encourage that and saw that as a good thing in general. But the fire department and community would need to look for over time resources to support that. And this commission could not continue to you know, carry the costs of that, but looking at what is the sustainability, financial sustainability model for that long-term partnership.
Yeah.
So that was the discussion we had at the time. I do think it probably is good to have some guidance around this if it is important, so that we can be transparent with potential applicants. But if we can make sure the language is clear, as I think Adrian is attempting to do, I think that would be my suggestion. But I do think the language as written was confusing. But maybe we do want to express and you know, that we welcome the idea of putting forward multi-year visions, but the grant cycle funding is only available, you know, for 1 year funding at a time.
What if we just put something in there? I'm just getting this from another grant program, but just organizations that wish to request more than 1 year of funding should confer with the commission before applying. What if we put something like that in there? So it was like, before you go out through this whole process of building this application, maybe like, you know, having a conversation with us in advance. So it seems like something that's relevant. Would that seem like something that could help?
I
with that?
guess, I mean, one idea is to hold off on that, because sometimes when you speak about something, you invite people to think about it in where they might not have, you know, they might, oh, I'll do a 3 year, I'll ask for a 3 year. And maybe we want that, but on the other hand, maybe you'd like that to just organically, you know, either have someone approach us and say, hey, could I make a grant proposal for a 3 year long project? Or their project is so wonderful that they say, I'd like to continue it, which is what we speak to here. Is more a continuation of something that already worked quite well, showed that it worked very well, and has further potential. If we, I guess I'm a little bit conservative thinking, if we say, hey, if you have an idea for a multi-year project, here's what you need to do, that we sort of open the door to those ideas. I don't want to sound like I'm quashing things, but on the other hand, maybe 1 year at a time is more manageable.
I think most of them are 1 year at a time, though. Like I can't think of any proposals we've received where it was a multi-year thing. But yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's been working well thus far, it sounds like. So I'm a little tentative about putting out there that you could potentially apply for something that's multi-year.
And we don't have any certainty that there would even be funding the next year. So we don't want to raise expectations either. Yeah.
How about a statement that says something like, the commission may choose not to award a grant to an individual or group for 2 years in a row? or 2 consecutive years. So it's not quite as wordy, and it doesn't totally eliminate the possibility, but it also kind of discourages a little bit. I mean, the point is so lots of people have the opportunity. And it could be that you do have one individual or group who does have another project that might be really, really great, but there might be some other projects out there that we would like to give the chance to, do their thing and do something different.
Mhm.
I like that a lot. I think that's a
I
good
agree.
solution.
Sounds good.
Mhm.
It opens up the possibility for us to go either way with any of those applications too, which is nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like
Um,
that.
Adrienne, are you editing?
If Damon can repeat those words
Sure.
and someone tell me where it should be dropped in, let's see.
Probably where
Uh,
the highlight is, I'd imagine.
Yeah, right
Okay,
there where
the
you have the
cursor
tab.
is?
Mhm.
Gotcha. Damon?
The commission may choose not to award a grant to an individual or group for 2 years in a row. This is my original draft. And you could say 2 consecutive years or just consecutive years. Individual or group for consecutive years.
Can I suggest that maybe the commission has the discretion to decide on awarding grants
I think that's clear with the application process.
beyond, well, I'm not great at doing it on the fly, so I'll just go back to what we had here.
And I can restate it if need be. If we wanted, we could even just say group for consecutive years if we wanted to take out the word "to."
So do we take all of this out? All of this goes?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have to say it feels a little bit like we're just dropping in this negative about something that no one may have even thought about. But
I just think if we don't have a statement like that and our intention is to not award someone in consecutive years, then we're making them go through a lot where when they, if they know we're probably not going to award that, I probably would not go through the process
gotcha.
unless it was extremely compelling.
Okay, I get, so. it
And then,
sounds like-
you could have something like a sentence saying that something about they could follow up with a commission for clarification, or we could just leave it as it is. And if they really are motivated, they will reach out to us.
I like it the way it is. I think it's simple, but but it still leaves open the possibility that somebody may make a very compelling argument for consecutive year funding.
One question I had about eligibility, do they need to be a Charlottesville city resident?
No,
No, okay.
They
we've
do
never
not.
said that in the past, and I think in general the program as a whole has never been limited to just city residents.
Sweet.
So Albemarle County residents and others are eligible for grants.
Correct.
Can that be, can we discriminate on whether a proposal comes from the city or outside of the city?
We've said Charlottesville area, if you look at the top. So I guess that can be loosely defined as the surrounding county, and I think it's subject to interpretation by the commission.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Yeah.
Some of the most active participants in our sister city program have not been city residents. We had great participation from Albemarle County residents over the years. And I'd hate to get too parochial.
Well, and I don't live in Charlottesville myself.
Oh, well, there you go.
But I just want to,
Good
which is
question.
not a requirement of the higher ed person, but whatever. I mean, that's fine with me.
Sweet. Love it.
Okay. Great. Adrian, did you have any other, I
Yes,
think there are a couple of remaining issues, but did you have anything else you wanted to clarify on
I'm
wording?
just down in the project timeline paragraph. I just added capital letters to grant committee representatives. That's the, English literature teacher in me.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, I'll just take one quick look. I think I had one question about the application itself when we get there, but before then, no, nothing else.
Okay.
My one question was, I know that, very soon we have the vote from City Council on the addition of Huawei as a sister city. And if they do vote for it, yes, that's where I'm going.
Yes, I think that's a discussion item we need to talk about, and that affects the timeline and everything. So do we want to, I'd like to propose maybe we could come back to that in a moment, Damon, and just see if there's anything else on the application form, and then maybe we can talk about that very question.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. The other one that we can come back to is the 45 days, and that's sort of driven by the timeline, which we can look at together. But what I had circulated in terms of a potential timeline is within a 45-day window, but it's, I think, 44 days when I calculated it. So I don't feel like we have much wiggle room to expand that any further. So my recommendation would be to retain the 45 days. I think it's feasible. But if we need to wait for Huawei, that might push things back potentially. So we can take a look at that after we have the Huawei discussion.
So for the 45 days, Dave, Amanda, you've been on this committee before. Do you really need the full 45 days? I mean, what was your experience with that? I mean, would 30 days be adequate to review the proposals?
And the language is 45 from the time, 45 days of the deadline date. So I think it sort of depends on the commission meeting cycle. Because the decisions around grant making as a commission, I mean, the grants committee will make a presentation and recommendations to the full commission. So we have to look at the calendar for when the commission is meeting in this time frame. I can share, or we can take a look at that.
I thought
sorry, Adrian.
The calendar that you had laid out there, which is the one in your in the agenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was, first of all, compliments on that, because it just hit all the points that I'm learning need to be, or the occasions or tasks that have to happen. But I thought it was pretty tight. Like, it worked really well, but it didn't seem like there was too much room given the times of the meetings, dates of the meetings.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say is probably the only opportunity to speed this up would be to shorten the, I think that probably the maximum between the announcement and the deadline would be, the minimum would be 30 days, I think, and that's what we may have set last year. I'd have to go back and check. But I think we gave a little more time in this case because of the holidays. It's straddling the holidays, and so wanted to give people a little bit of additional time in light
I'm
of that.
comfortable with the amount of time we're giving people to apply. I definitely think the more we can give in that regard, the better.
Yeah.
My question was in regards to how long it takes us to review the proposal.
It really, I mean, in terms of what it took last year was we each individually reviewed all the grant proposals, and we basically did our own kind of review and scoring in our own styles. I think we had some sort of a review matrix or to kind of guide us in that, if I remember correctly, Dave. And then we met for an hour and a half or so and went through each proposal together and came to kind of a consensus around what our recommendation was. In some cases, we would want to seek more information or negotiate or make some suggestions, or we felt like it wasn't a strong application. And so we basically agreed as a subcommittee around our recommendations. So that was really an hour and a half long meeting, but it required pre-work on the part of each grant committee member. And then I put together, I think, some talking points and circulated those to the committee to make sure we were all in agreement on the main messages before we went to the commission. And I think that was really it. It's just a matter of scheduling that with us. I think if we have a January 15th deadline, if we follow the current, I think, pattern of commission meetings monthly, the next one would be January 19th. So only 4 days after receiving them. And I don't think it's realistic that we could complete the whole review and recommendations in 4 days.
If everyone looks at the timeline that Amanda put together in the agenda,
I can share my screen there if we want to look at that now.
yeah, we're talking
Sure.
about D, E, F, G.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And maybe that if we must present our grant recommendations or deliberations, et cetera, at our larger commission meetings, then we pretty much are locked in to an initial thing at our January meeting and then a wrap up at our February meeting. And that's just a day beyond 30. So
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at. Unless
Well,
we
and
changed our
also-
our scheduling for the commission meeting, we might be able to accelerate.
can you show that share screen, Amanda, where we see from point D down?
Are you all seeing it right now?
There we go.
I see it.
Okay.
So January 15th is the deadline, and then we have a commission meeting where we update on the grant application. Oh, I was going to correct that to applications received or proposals.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
And then more work by the subcommittee. And then if we do indeed need to present again our conclusions, our decisions, et cetera, at the February meeting, then now we're at 31 days.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, we can always leave it at 45 days in there. But that doesn't mean we have to wait that long.
No,
I mean,
it's
I
a
think
it's
that-
a maximum. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a maximum. So we can respond to them as quickly as we, I mean, not as
Yeah.
we want to, but yeah, we can just leave it. I was just curious.
The other point is that after the presentation, there's another process step, which required a few hours of time last year. Once the decisions were made, there was a formal communications back to every grant recipient, denial letters or, acceptance letters or a letter saying we, conditionally accept with these modifications. So each letter had to be handcrafted based on our guidance. It wasn't just one form letter. So that took a few hours of time to put all of that together and send those out. So that's the final step after the commission meeting. So we do need to allow a little time for that, for the actual communications to go out.
Should we go ahead and try and schedule a meeting day to review the grants, since there are
Mhm.
only a handful of, committee dates available each month? I think 6.
Probably so. Could we also just confirm that I had the correct dates for the next monthly meetings? Are those scheduled already for 2021?
19th,
Or,
I don't think is correct. Oh, yes, the 19th is correct, as is February 16th. Both of those are dates that we will
okay,
be together.
great. So sometime
Maybe on
between,
the application, we just change it slightly to say grant recipients will be notified no more than 45 days after the deadline date. Or we just leave it within and we know that it means 45 days or less.
I mean, probably February 2nd or 9th would be a good day. It's a Tuesday. For a grant committee meeting.
Okay.
Anyone have a preference?
What days were that again? Sorry, Damon.
The February 9th, perhaps, as our grant committee meeting to discuss our reviews of the proposals. Or the 16th.
Well, the 16th is our,
Or the 16th is a meeting. So the 2nd or the 9th.
2nd or the 9th, yeah.
What do y'all think?
Yeah,
I feel
Because I
like
think we need at least a couple of weeks to,
Mhm.
review.
I have no
Yeah.
say. This is not my committee, but I would say the 9th, just so people have enough time to read through the applications.
Well, that, and we may decide that we need to bump the deadline date by a week if we wait until after the Weiwei decision.
Right. That's a good point, because we do need to decide if this timeline can hold with the Weiwei decision. I tried to take that into account here, but it doesn't allow any time for further back and forth. If council, if there's not a decision on that on December 7th, then do we wait, or do we just proceed?
I think we move forward.
Okay.
I mean,
By
if they don't
December
make a
9th, we post
decision,
an announcement. Okay.
yeah, that's my opinion. I mean, who knows how long, if they can't decide on that day, who knows when they will make the decision.
Right. Okay, that was my assumption as well. So I proposed December 9th to post the announcement, so we get through the council meeting, finalize the announcement if there's any kind of wording change or anything, and we need to add Weiwei onto the application. We do that, and then Brian, we would want to then post on December 9th and do the announcement then. So I think we're okay for the whole timeline, and then Weiwei decision shouldn't affect this in terms of the 45 days. And by March 1st, we would be notifying grant applicants. Then I guess so February 9th, Kate, is your suggestion to give ourselves a little more time. The other thought is, if just, there's a possibility that we would, not get many applications, and one option could be to extend and do another kind of round of promotion for another week or something, just to see if we can get any more in. So giving ourselves a little padding there too might be smart.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, and if this year we don't fully give out $16,000 in grants, that probably would not be the end of the world. We don't yet know if we're going to have a budget for this year, or additional funding.
Yep.
So we can just, we can see how it goes with the
Okay.
number of grant proposals.
All right, so February 9th for a grants committee meeting. Can we make that formal request then?
Yeah, but
Thank you,
if
Matt.
you're asking me, sorry. Yeah, that's not a problem. I'll go ahead and get you scheduled.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
All right,
Same time, 4:30.
yeah, that work for everyone?
Mhm.
4:30? Okay, great, thanks. Should we, I know there was an application comment you had, Adrienne. Was there anything else on the application? And then we'll go back to Weiwei.
Yes, two questions. One, is the grant application document a live document? Do people have to download it and fill it in and then
Mm.
scan it back, or can they type into it? And
When it gets posted, I'm trying to remember. I think it's a live document.
my recollection from a couple years ago, I was part of a group that applied, and I think it was more paper then, but that's a few years back.
I'm just going to look at the 2021 or the 2019-20 applications to see how they came in. I think that they came in as live applications, were PDF'd. Yeah.
But they can't I have a feeling well, I guess that's not crucial. Ideally, they would be nice, easy to type into and then just send back.
I think so. I mean, based on the document here, that, I mean, they come back in the form of what we were just reviewing, I believe.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, that's not that crucial. It's just a curiosity on my part. The only other question I had is at the very end, it says signature of applicants authorizing official, and I didn't really know what that meant. Is that the applicant? That's not the applicant? Is that someone who's sponsoring the applicant, or?
I would interpret that as the applicant, but it's agree that the language is a little funny.
We could say applicant signature, or how do we word it? We say if it's a group, you should have a single person, designate one contact person. For a minute, I thought it meant that you were supposed to have someone on the commission who kind of vouched for you or something. So we should clear that up. Like, I mean, one thing is just to say applicant signature and leave it like that.
I think that's fine, unless there's a legal reason we need to have this language, which is a little, seems like legalese. I don't know what the origin of that is. Anyone else have a view there?
We could just change it to applicant's signature.
Yeah. I pulled up one from last year, and it was the person who received the grant signed it as an individual. Okay. Just one example, but I think that's how it's understood.
Okay. Well, I just made that edit, so
perfect.
That reads applicant signature.
The only thing I can think of is if this is proposed by a youth who is, a minor. In that case, you would need someone to sign for the youth.
That's something maybe we can throw in the eligibility or something, like needs signature from parent if under the age of 18 or 16.
Or you could put applicant signature and then in parentheses or parent if under 18.
Yep.
That probably hasn't happened that much, that we've had minors make proposals.
Has it?
Yeah, has it? Do y'all know?
There was one I recall last year. Dave, do you remember that one? We received, it was sort of a father and daughter combo application. I think the daughter did most of the writing and preparation, but the dad signed it and kind of submitted it. So there was a cover note explaining that. That's how they handled it.
And you would think common sense would say the adult signs the documents.
So do we want to, sorry, Adrian, were you editing that to make that clear?
Yeah, I was back up under eligibility at Kate's suggestion, which I think is a good spot for it. And we can say, when submitting a group application, please designate one contact person. Applicants under the age of 18 should have a parent or legal guardian sign together with the applicant, something like that. Sign the application form. Does that?
Yeah. That works, I think. Is everyone okay with that?
Sure. Do we even need together with the applicant? I mean, it is nice
Okay.
to, I mean, either way, I don't care.
There's
Just saying.
one signature spot, I guess, probably. So
Right now, there's
using-
one signature spot.
So the parent needs to sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I want to touch on an issue on the eligibility section as well.
Mhm.
Last year, we had a discussion about the reimbursement question, whether the grants had to be done on a reimbursement basis. And our committee, I think, came to the conclusion that that could be exclusionary, you know, and that for people of lesser income or low wealth individuals, that we decided that on a case-by-case basis, we would allow them to get if they had a fiscal sponsor, a nonprofit organization they were working with, that they could draw down the monies up front and not have them be awarded on a reimbursement basis, which is how Myra Anderson was able to get a grant. She would not have been able to do her project without that clause because she's a low-income woman who can't afford to pay, you know, $2,400 out of pocket. So I wonder, so I really like that solution that we came up with.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that should be reflected somehow in the eligibility guidelines, or if that's something we should.
It's up in criteria for funding. That's where it would fall, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think last time we just sort of did it as a kind of a ad hoc thing or informal policy, but.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dave.
Can we simply say the option funds will be available either as upfront something or as reimbursements?
Sorry, where are you, Adrian?
Oh, sorry. I'm at the top paragraph, criteria for funding, where it read before just funds will be available as reimbursements. And I added in funds will be available either either there's probably better language, upfront something or as reimbursements.
What about as reimbursements or through a fiscal sponsor? I don't know if that is, people will widely understand what we mean by fiscal sponsor. An approved fiscal sponsor. We don't necessarily have guidelines for how to approve a fiscal sponsor either. That might open up yet another kind of issue for us to define. But I mean, I would think we would want to ensure that we, you know, the fiscal sponsor has the needed financial management practices and, you know, is a trusted source or trusted holder of funds. And that person, the grantee, would have some sort of relationship, you know, some sort of contractual relationship with that sponsor, right? I don't know, Dave, if you have any suggestions around how to make that clear.
No, you're exactly right. You know, we could leave it like this for now and then just sort of on a case-by-case basis, you know, determine if whatever fiscal sponsor they come up with is, you know, passes muster. And if need be, we can come up with a set of guidelines or requirements there, but
Yeah. See if the case arises. Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's great to include it though. That's consistent with our intent to make it, lower the barriers to entry into some of the
Right.
opportunities. So I think it's good to include it here. Mhm. Great. Okay. Were there any other comments on the application?
None from me.
Not me.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Shall we revisit the Wayway question? And just to confirm that the Wayway sisters, I don't know, maybe Kate, you could just update us all on what's happening at council on in December with the Wayway decision, and what, would a decision be made December 8th by council potentially that would allow us to add Wayway to this list of sister cities? Or is there a more like a process with sister cities international that we'd have to go through before we could actually formally mention Wayway or even notify Wayway of the partnership? I don't know what comes after the council decision and whether we could even start to promote that within 2 days of the council decision.
That's a tough decision. And Dave did a huge part in writing that proposal too for council. So I know they'll make the decision, or hopefully make the decision next Monday. I know that, for the first 3 years, it's more of like a courtship, as far as I know. Isn't that right, Dave? Like with that
I think
process.
we say I don't remember if it's a fixed 3 years, but it's at least 1 year, if not longer. The idea is that, and what they're, not to interrupt, but what we're asking them to approve on Monday is basically an intent to become a sister city. It's not, they're not agreeing to become a sister city because basically it gives us a year to sort of flesh out what this sister city could be. And to develop a memorandum of understanding between the communities that would then come back to council, within a year or so. So it's, although in my mind, if we're at least in that courtship period, if somebody's got a really cool project that would particularly, it's something that could help us define what that sister city could be, then I'd love to consider it. So.
Do we know where the city of Wayway stands in regards to the finalization of the relationship? Or have they said yes and they're waiting for us? Or where are we in that?
They've been consulted early on, and I believe we had a letter from them. I can't remember if it was a written letter or some kind of communication from them expressing interest. So I know, because that was one of the things that we asked for, was some kind of a signal from the community in question. I know we did get a letter from the one in Argentina. I can't remember if we got a letter from Wayway or not, but
I can see if I can find it. I have a half-written email to Terry right now to see if she has that stuff. Because that would have been before, I think, all of our times, except with the exception of you, Dave. I think that this whole process started even before we signed on to this. So yeah, if I can access that letter from Wayway. I have the presentation materials from Jordan. I haven't been able to reach Jordan. I don't even know if she's with Ishtatan anymore or not. I think she is, but I haven't been able to get a hold of her at all. I've tried. I've looked her up on Google. I've emailed her other place of employment. So, but she had a lot of great information to share. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping to on Monday go in with a lot of supporting information from the city. But that is good to know that they're aware of it. Personally, like if city council approves to just go forward with this to the next step, I don't see why we shouldn't include Wayway in here as a way of sort of building that relationship in these early stages. And also just sort of supporting, like maybe even giving us ideas of how we can, best connect with this community. But I don't have any of that Wayway stuff, unfortunately.
Well, For purposes of the grant application, it sounds like we'd want to not close the door, assuming that there's no objection by council to moving forward in that courtship process with Weiwei. Would we, what would we do in this case with the list of cities? We do have Pleven, which is kind of a little bit of a, not, I guess, at the same level of sister cityhood as the other 3 cities, but would we add Weiwei as, you know, or some sort of status of Weiwei as pending new sister city or something like that? And there probably is a specific term sister cities uses, but we just need to indicate that it's still, I guess, in a pending status of some sort.
Yeah. So we can get that exact wording for you.
Okay.
Just as like, you know, a proposed sister city or a potential sister city.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Is there a problem, or I guess I'm new at all of this, but I mean, would it make any sense to leave Weiwei off until it's official? Or would anyone, is there any care that we need to take in terms of like suggesting that we're going to give grants for a sister city that isn't officially a sister city yet?
You know, on a similar note, I'm curious what our requirements basically are in that initial courtship period. And maybe a grant of some sort connected to that would be an important part of that. But I don't know. Do you all know? Does anyone know what is required of us, the commission as a whole, during the courtship period?
You know, Damon, you and I are meeting with our Virginia rep on Thursday. That might be a good question for him too. He's the Sister Cities Virginia person. Because yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of stuff on dormant cities in our drive that I found, but I don't have anything on establishing a sister city relationship. So that's something, I mean, it's going to be new for, I think, all of us, but there are guides online on like how to officially do, oh, here we go. So, I mean, we've done the research phase, the planning phase, all that stuff. We've developed a line of communication, it sounds like. Partnership agreement, signing ceremony, a lot of stuff. I can send this to you guys and see like what we.
Is that all during the courtship period? Or I guess one of the questions I'm hearing is are we allowed to do a grant award during a courtship period? Is that encouraged or discouraged? Are there any rules or guidance around that we need to take into account before we include this? If council agrees to move forward, we have their agreement. We just want to make sure, I guess, with Sister Cities program, there's no issue there.
So,
but I would actually be curious, even if the council decides to move forward, it's still not a done deal. Or when does it become a done deal? And I just don't know if anyone would, if there are rules or things we need to be aware about, is that we cannot be giving grants for projects that relate to a sister city relationship that is not finished yet, or 100% established.
One thing we learned in previous years was that it's somewhat unusual for a city to have a grants program.
Yeah.
So there's not necessarily hard and fast rules from Sister City International as to how we should allocate our grant funds. And I think there's a lot of local flexibility and leeway there. So I think that's really more of a question for our city, as opposed to for Sister Cities International.
Mm-hmm. And I came up with nothing, no guidance around travel scholarships through sister cities either. When I tried to research, I couldn't find anything there in terms of guidance.
Maybe that becomes part of the proposal that's made next week, is to ask the question, pending
Right.
your decision today, if it's positive, if we're moving forward, we'd like to include them in our grants announcement that's imminent. And we see a potential proposal connected to Wayway as part of a positive movement in that direction that you, city council, seem to be already behind.
Yeah.
So maybe, we could frame it that way and get them, hope that they say, sure, go ahead.
Max, do you know if that memo has already gone out to council?
Kana was making the final, or working on the agenda today. So I don't know that it has been finalized, but today being Tuesday, it will definitely go out to them on tomorrow.
So I'm wondering if we should just add a line to the memo saying that if approved, then Wayway would be included as a potential grant. Projects involving Wayway would be considered in the next grant cycle or something like that. Just
I think that would be good if possible to include in the memo and or in the, is there actual presentation or it's just the memo without discussion?
I believe someone from Sister City would be doing some form of a presentation to council. I can confirm that with Kina, but that's typically how it works. Someone needs to, present what it is. And then my only other suggestion is that if you want to change any language in the presentation, I'd get that to Kina today, because again, that'll go out to council tomorrow.
We haven't sent her like a formal presentation or anything. We just sent the proposal. Are there like slides or things that we should be sharing in advance, like tomorrow?
No, I don't. I mean, if you've sent her a proposal, I think that's good enough. But it's been my experience that each proposal or presentation has had someone to at least speak to council and maybe answer any questions that they may have about it and things like that. So,
Dave, maybe we can talk with Joan about that aspect too. I'm not sure if she was planning on going to council. And know that the Spanish speaking sister committee she's leading that technically. So I don't want to take anything away from her, but I also haven't heard from her on any of that. So
yeah, I was a little disappointed to hear that we haven't been able to connect with Jordan yet, because she could do a really sweet little 5-minute presentation,
I've been really struggling to find her. Her presentation was fantastic.
It was.
I might be able to find her slides and stuff. And we certainly have the original proposal from the Ishtatem Foundation on why Wayway is a great fit. I mean, if worse comes to worse, one of us can read like that. But ideally it would be Jordan, though, because she was the one who just did such a fabulous job and had the personal connection.
And
she has the great pictures and
So
I don't say that to create any, work for you guys, extra work for you guys, extra work for Kina. But I would think that someone needs to be on deck, because council will, I'm sure at the minimum, have questions.
Yeah, I mean, I plan on being there, already registered, but if, I don't know, Dave, if you've got anything going on Monday night.
I'll be there.
Yeah. And I can connect with you and Joan too and see if she has anything to add, since she's leading that committee, and maybe we can track down Jordan.
And I'll add one sentence to that memo and get it to Kina tonight. Just saying, again, if approved, then Wayway would be included in eligibility for grants, whatever.
Yep, that sounds good. And I'll give her the heads up.
Oh, thank you, Max.
Okay, that sounds really good. So we'll make that addition to the memo, and it sounds like Damon and Kate, you'll be meeting with, you said, the Virginia Sister Cities rep. But one thing, if you do get, or if we can get any kind of guidance from Sister Cities on how we refer to Wayway here, or if we can just call it potential new sister city. Or I think the other thing to note is that we would highlight it not only in this application form we've been reviewing, but in the press release, which is where it would get more visibility. So, is this item on the agenda likely to make it into the daily progress the next day? And will there be coverage of this, or will this be the first time the community hears about Wayway? Is when we announce the grants, 2 days later, the grant process. So wanted to think about.
Oh, maybe my internet cut out just then. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Kate, did you follow the question?
I did not hear a thing you said for the past.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just asked. So I was just reviewing what some of the next steps were around the memo, and then needing to get clarification on how we would refer to Wayway in the materials. And then I was just flagging that, not only in the application form, but there's a press release, draft announcement I circulated as well, that would go out on December 9th and posted on the city's website. I already made some adjustments to that, but would ask that everyone take a look at that too. We probably don't have time to review that now, but I think if you have any adjustments to that, please send them. What I wanted to ask is that going to be our splash about Wayway? Is that where the word gets out? So I just think we need to think about the communications piece of this too, around what happens after council on the 7th, if there's a decision to move forward. Will there be some other kind of communication to the city, through the city about that, or in the newspaper?
I fully expect that somebody in the media, the Daily Progress or somebody, will run a story before Monday's meeting about Wayway.
This item, okay.
Once they see it on the agenda. And we should expect pushback, or blowback, because there is a segment of the community that really has disdain for anything sister city related. And if it looks like we're expanding the sister city program, they're going to get riled up. That happens all the time, and we should just be prepared for that. But we have to keep in mind the reasons why we did this, why we're doing this, and why all the great benefits it's going to have for our community, and be proud of it.
I think that was part of my concern about not getting into any trouble, having Wayway look as if it's a done deal on the grants applications and all.
Right. We don't want to get ahead of the larger communication, I guess, is the question. So there's a sequencing question, I think, embedded there. Brian, I don't know if you'd have guidance for us on this question. And if we announce the grants process on December 9th, possibly making reference to Wayway, does that seem okay? Or should we preview, or should we get ahead of the communication and send out some sort of announcement first about Wayway, and then a day or two later would come the grants announcement, or bundle them somehow?
I'm not in the loop on what you're presenting to council. So did I hear you say that your recommendation is going to be public when the council packet goes out?
Correct.
Okay, so that'll be public tomorrow evening. And as Dave said, Thursday morning, we'll probably have inquiries on that subject. Somebody may wait until the weekend and want to do a story, Monday morning. Typically the Daily Progress will run a story Sunday night for Monday morning, previewing the council meeting. So it would be, if you want to, I guess that's one news item, is that they will want to cover that recommendation. But then separately, I guess you have the grants program. So we're thinking those are two different things, right?
Yes, in my mind they are.
Yeah. So if you want to get a media release out about the grants program, send me that draft. I can get the city manager to look at that, and we can send that out for you. And then let me know who you'd like to be point people responding to the media, both for your recommendation about the next sister city and then your grants process. Anything else I can tell you?
Well, and just so you know, Brian, one of the items in our memo to council is pointing out that this is not going to cost the city of Charlottesville a single penny. And because we have essentially made one of our existing sister cities a sister city emeritus, and this is kind of becoming our fourth sort of ongoing active sister city partnership in place of Pleven. So we're not asking for any additional funds from the city to support this partnership, because I know people are going to ask. And so,
Sure.
Is that official, Dave, the Sister City Emeritus status?
there was a letter that went out from Mayor Walker, I think a year or two ago, basically notifying Pleven that we haven't divorced them altogether, or whatever the word is, but that we are now considering them in emeritus status. So,
Gotcha. So it's dormant, completely dormant, that program.
I mean, it has been dormant for over a decade. We did one grant, I think, a couple years ago for a musical program there, but for the most part, there haven't been any visits, official visits in over a decade, or other activity. So.
That makes me wonder if we should also have language, if they should even be on the grants program. And if they are, maybe the word emeritus or something. It just, if someone had a grant idea connected to Pleven, if the name of the city is there, then we should entertain it, at least consider it. But if it's really dormant or emeritus or off the books, maybe we shouldn't have them listed there.
I made the same point last year, Adrian, so I totally agree. In my mind, we shouldn't be actively encouraging projects in Pleven. So if nothing else, at least put the word emeritus behind it on the grant application, so it's sort of sending a signal.
Damon and Kate, I don't know if this is probably not a question for the Virginia sister city person, but at council, when either one of you speak, perhaps, I mean, like, where do we get the approval or someone to say, you're right, Pleven is over? Or
I think the letter from Mayor Walker, if that's the case, that is an official step in the process of becoming dormant sister city, is the formal recognition that it is a sister city. So that being done, I think sort of puts the nail in the coffin, so to speak.
Well, maybe we should just take it off the application. I mean, if someone is out there and does have a connection to Pleven, sorry, and they do go to the effort of following up with us, even though it's not on the application, well, then maybe we consider it. But if it's been on ice for this long, probably no one will even notice that it's gone from the application. I mean, maybe they'll see the sign and wonder, on the 250 bypass, but probably not even then, really.
All right, do we have agreement that we want to remove Pleven altogether from the application?
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
from me.
I mean, is that a question also for the larger commission, or is that something we as a committee can simply decide?
I feel like if we've gone through the process of making it a dormant program, it shouldn't be a question. Like that's something that has been decided upon already.
That makes sense.
Is it clear on the sister cities website? Have the websites been updated accordingly too? You just want to make sure it's consistent. If somebody starts researching it, that might create confusion.
Yeah, our website makes it sound like it's still an active sister city, and
That's something maybe we can have Michael update too. Damon and I have been in correspondence with him for like budget stuff, so we can just throw that in there of like Plevin is, emeritus status. You putting it as emeritus status on there so that we're not like completely chucking it, but just saying, hey.
Right. I agree.
Okay, so we are in agreement. We're going to drop it all together from the application, update the website with emeritus status, and have a placeholder for Weiwei to be confirmed after the 7th. Okay. Woo.
And it's also entirely possible, I assume you all know this, it's entirely possible council may not make a decision on the 7th. They may kick the can down the road and decide to study it further, which is totally their prerogative, so.
And if that's the case, then I think we do not include them on the application.
I totally agree.
I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I guess we have 3 sister cities on there if we have Plevin gone.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we have had a robust discussion of the application process and the contents. And I think I'd like to maybe suggest we move to the final item of any other business for grants. Dave, I know you'd suggested we talk a bit about the timeline for completing 2020 grant projects. Did you want to say a word about that? And we can maybe just share. I think the commission talked a little about this. It might have been the meet when you were away, but I think it is coming up. I think with the fire department response to you in particular.
Right.
Yeah. Do you want to say a little more?
So we had 2 Winneba related grants last year. Myra Anderson had a poetry project, and she is coming on the May trip and plans to do her project then. And so she'll be fine.
Great.
But the fire department got a grant to continue to build on their previous grant. And in correspondence with them this week, they said it's probably going to be fall at the earliest before they're able to implement their grant. And so it begs the question, is that too far out from, when the grant was awarded? In my mind, given, this completely unforeseeable, situation with COVID, I'm willing to give them the flexibility. I hate to penalize them for something that was completely out of their control, but I do want to see some movement in 2021. I don't want to see them, again, just kind of kick the can down the road to 2022 or beyond. I do want to see, so maybe we ask for a progress report, in spring or summer, I don't know, showing the steps they've taken to actually implement this grant. But so that's sort of the question before our committee today, because they asked themselves, they said, what is the deadline for using these funds? So that they're looking for guidance from us.
What would the regular deadline have been if there was no pandemic?
I think it's usually 1 year.
1 year. Mm-hmm.
And
so when does that year typically start? So I
From
think
the award, right?
the award was, when was that, Amanda? Was that?
That was in January, I think, is when the notification letters went out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're about 2 months behind. Right. So it's usually on kind of a calendar year basis.
Right.
So this January 2021 would be typically when they should be done with it?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. But all of the grants, as we've talked about from this past year, have been delayed due to COVID. And I'm trying to remember which commission meeting, or was it the retreat? We discussed this very matter.
Wasn't there a discussion about following up with maybe every awardee and saying,
yes,
are you complete? And if not, what is your, forecast? And maybe at that point, we would also say we have to impose a deadline of 1 extra year from what was originally planned. I mean, I don't think we should leave it open, completely open-ended.
You know,
And real quickly, if I could just add a tidbit, I do remember Amanda bringing up this topic at a previous meeting. So I checked with Keena on it as far as, you know, expiration dates on using grants. And based on the current circumstances, you know, the grants just rolled over. So that 1-year deadline didn't necessarily apply. Now, I don't know how long it'll, you know,
Yeah.
continue, but it's certainly not in effect at the moment.
Dave, what is the final piece of their project that they need to accomplish?
For the fire department, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the monies in this grant were actually to send another group of fire department personnel over to Winneba to continue some of the fire assessment work that they've been doing in partnership with the fire service in Winneba. And so that trip was planned for 2020 and obviously didn't happen because of COVID. We asked them if they would consider just sending some representatives along with our upcoming trip in May. And unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, they're adding a bunch of personnel right around that same time. They've got 15 new officers, I guess, coming on staff. And so they're onboarding a lot of people and shifting schedules around. It's just a bad time for them to be doing this. So I think their response was they're looking at something fall at the earliest.
Okay.
So that's what the funds are primarily for, is to cover their travel costs and related expenses.
Well, it seems pretty conceivable that they could accomplish that by the end of the year. I mean, you know, the upcoming year.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could propose end of the year or December 31st, 2021 as maybe our deadline. So I checked back to the notes and thank you, Max, for following up on that with Tina too. When we met at the retreat on September 29th, the commission voted in support of extending the deadline for 2020 grants into 2021, but we didn't specify a specific end date, conditional upon confirmation of the ongoing viability of the originally proposed projects. And so I am in the process of following up with those grant recipients, and Dave's helped already with the Winneba follow-ups. And so there are a few more, and I will try to have an update for the commission on that by our next meeting. So
Seems like this idea of extending it through December 31st of 21 is consistent with the commission's vote. Is that safe to say?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Have you heard back from most of the recipients, Amanda and Dave, or has it been kind of hard to?
So that was why I was trying to track down the Gmail account this past weekend, so that I could dig up the original email discussions with all of them and communicate that way rather than through my personal emails. But there is a history. So I will follow up now that I can get into the Gmail account and do the rest.
Great.
So yeah, I don't expect there will be challenges, but there are, I think, 3 or 4 more people I need to reach out to.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So that's my goal, is to just get a status update to understand whether this project could actually be implemented in 2021, assuming travel restrictions are loosened. And if so, then I'll update the commission, and then we would probably come back to say you have until December 31st, 2021.
So should I go ahead and tell that to the fire department, or wait until the commission sort of blesses it? Or
I think I would say probably, I don't know that we need to take this back to the commission as a decision item. The decision was already made. It would extend till 2021. We just didn't specify how long into 2021. We're giving it 365 days. I think it's probably fine as long as there's no kind of expiration of the funding that would limit the availability of funds. And it doesn't sound like there is per Max and Keena's update, if I understood correctly.
great, thank you.
Kate and Damon, are you okay with that recommendation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally. It'd be great to get an interim report from the fire department too, and just any of the grant recipients, just,
Yeah.
seeing if there are any new changes to the itinerary.
Yes. Yep. I'll try to compile that for the commission.
Thank you.
Finally, I don't think this is a discussion item, but just to mention that I circulated a grant report. It was a closeout report that I thought that this committee might be interested in for a Besançon artist in residency program from the 2018 to 2019 grant cycle, I think is actually the timeline. So 2 cycles ago. And I don't know if that's something Kate and Damon we'd want to share just for information with the larger commission. I think in the past, the commission has welcomed presentations by former grantees, when they do their closeout reports. So probably, I don't know that we would want to invite them to come to a commission meeting, but maybe at least share the final presentation. Elizabeth was copied on it back in June, I saw, so she presumably has reviewed it and they want to say more about that.
Well, that's great. I think having the fire department come last year was really beneficial for the committee, for the committee, just seeing what this money actually
looks like. Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be a great idea to invite her to one of our commission meetings in 2021. Possibly. So it looks like the meeting in February is the one where we are deciding on these proposals. So perhaps the meeting in January, after we get a chance to sort of talk about the process, learning from somebody who has taken part in this program would be really beneficial, so that moving forward, when we do vote or when we do approve these in February, we could have a good sense of the great things that come from such programs.
I think that would be really nice, if for no other reason that almost all of us are brand new on this commission. And not to say all we've done, but all we've done is, look at each other on Zoom. We've done other things, but it'll be nice to actually, hear from somebody who, completed a project.
Yes.
So.
Amanda, would you be willing to reach out to her and ask if she'd be willing to come to our commission meeting on January?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you. You've been the one in contact with her, but I'll make sure to add that to the agenda.
I actually haven't, but I can form a relationship. Elizabeth, I don't know if she already knows her. She was copied and may have a relationship already with Stacey Evans. This was 2 cycles ago before you and I were on the commission, Kate. So, but I'm happy to facilitate that too.
Thank you.
And just copy Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is great. Yeah, no, fantastic. Well, cool.
I like her presentation.
Fancy.
With
yeah.
the photos and everything.
I think that'll be fun for the commission to hear more about this work in action. So great.
Nice. Love it.
Okay, great. I think we're at time now. Thank you all I'm sorry we didn't wrap up sooner. Adrienne?
I just wanted to add in the vein of enjoying or hearing from Stacey, that on that press release, I had a couple of tiny little things. Well, really the only thing was, it says for more information, for more details, see this link or website. And I hadn't followed up to see, can grant people making proposals have easy access to see what the former grants look like? I thought that would be important, that people applying could also see, oh, who got them in the past? What did they do? So I'm hoping that link, I can easily follow up on that to see what that link offers, but that would be helpful for our whole promotional list.
Good question. I'm not actually aware that we have a space on the website that really highlights past grant projects. There may be. That would probably be a nice upgrade in terms of content if we wanted to work on that. I'm not sure how much is there currently. I'm not aware, I mean, I know that we haven't made an effort to feature the ones from the past year, although those haven't even been implemented yet.
I could look into it to see what's there or not there. And then because I'm on that committee too with Michael and Stella, maybe especially Michael and his expertise, we could at least begin the process of trying to get some of that information onto that site so
I think
that
that'd be great. For completed grant projects.
right.
And even,
right. And even
yeah,
even if it's not the year
if it's
before,
pending,
because that's
yeah,
kind of recent.
it's, you know, that's not uncommon for grant programs to have that kind of information online. So that would be a nice feature.
So on our webpage, there are a series of like paragraph long explanations of projects we have sponsored. I mean, that's obviously not a thorough, but there's about, looks like 5 or 6 cited on the webpage.
I mean, we could just.
Damon, is that the city webpage or the, what shall we call it?
SeavilleSisterCities.org.
That's the special, should we call it the special one? Like the sort of,
I guess the unofficial, the not city one.
okay. Well, that's something, a few paragraphs, it'd be fun if eventually it could be like, you know, have visuals and kind of have what we have here from Stacy.
Yeah, and there aren't really many visuals. There's one like community radio in Winneba, Thomas Jefferson and Filippo Mazzi and Poggio, art exploration and expedition in Pleven.
Those may be a few years old too. I don't know when that was last
Yeah, we
updated.
might have to call out the really old ones.
They are a few years
older
old.
ones.
It does have the last year's application for what it's worth. Anyway, I'm sure it could use an update.
Okay. Great. I think that sounds like a nice suggestion and something maybe the grants committee and the communications committee could work on.
Going forward.
Yeah, I don't know how, you know, I'm not sure, Adrian, how much we could do between now and the, you know, and the release of this announcement. We can see what's feasible, but it seems like a good initiative.
It can be an ongoing thing.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you all so much. I think we probably should close here since we're over time now. Thanks for your time and hard work this evening. We covered a lot, and looking forward to getting this grants process underway soon. And hope the council meeting goes well.
Thanks.
Next
Thanks
Monday.
to all of you.
We'll update the group.
Hey,
Thank you
Kate.
all. Take care. Have a good week.
You too.
Kate, do we have a Zoom link for our meeting on Thursday?
Yeah, Fred sent it.
I couldn't find one.
Oh.
You did? Okay, I'll look back.
Now that I'm saying that, I'm not totally sure. But if he didn't,
I know he said he would. I think
you know, you might be right.
he said that I don't recall him actually sending it.
All right, maybe we send him a little reminder saying, "Hey, we need your link," or something.
Yeah, I'll
That
email.
works. Thanks,
Cool.
Damon.
All right, thanks. See you later.
See you Thursday. Bye.